The most important project of 2025 just launched, which is Plasma. This is a new layer 1 blockchain that's built specifically for stablecoins that's going after a $1 trillion opportunity. Plasma is already backed by the biggest names like billionaire Peter Thiel and Paulo Ardenio, which is the CEO of Tether, and their goal is to build this stablecoin infrastructure for an entire global payment system. The first thing I want to do is give an overview of Plasma because honestly, the last thing the world needs is yet another layer 1 blockchain. But I want to talk about what makes Plasma different and why I believe it's actually positioned for a big win here. We'll dive into why I believe stablecoins is a $1 trillion opportunity. We'll show some of the metrics now that the blockchain has been live for the past few days, as well as some DeFi opportunities and how you could be earning 25% right now on your stablecoins. Plasma's goal is to build a layer 1 blockchain that's purpose-built for stablecoins and creating the infrastructure for kind of a global payment network. So we can see here it's incredibly fast, right? 1,000 transactions per second. We have $0 in USDT transfer fees. Being able to move any amount of money across the world for $0 is such an insane accomplishment of technology. And of course, we have less than a second block times here. So obviously it's incredibly fast. We can see here that Plasma is EVM compatible, so it's going to be able to plug directly into Ethereum, and Ethereum has the largest amount of TVL of any blockchain, so it's going to be able to build out a really robust DeFi ecosystem right away. We have projects like Aave, Athena, and Fluid looking to already make their commitments to build on the Plasma ecosystem. You could also think of Plasma kind of as this Bitcoin sidechain. Because they've actually built this native Bitcoin bridge, this is going to be able to allow them to access all that liquidity over on the Bitcoin ecosystem and bring it over into Plasma. And so people will be able to earn yield and participate in DeFi much easier than they usually would. I've already briefly talked about how Plasma has $0 fees. So Plasma supports right now over 100 different countries and over 100 different currencies. So you can send in any currency you want to almost any country in the world with $0 in fees. And something else they've done really cool is custom gas tokens. So you might be familiar, right? On Ethereum, you need ETH. On Solana, you need Sol, and so on. Right, but on Plasma, you can actually use different coins. You can see here like Bitcoin or USDT to actually pay for the gas token. So it's already incredibly cheap, but now you don't have to worry about just having some kind of gas token just to be able to move things around, right? You can just use the native assets that you would already be using. And probably the most important thing here is confidential payment. So blockchains, of course, are really special because of the openness of the technology, right? Being able to see everything in real time. But the truth is that doesn't necessarily fit the use case of a global payment network. We need the ability to have private transactions. And so that is exactly what they're going to bring to the table with this Plasma blockchain. So the question is stablecoins truly a $1 trillion opportunity? And I would argue absolutely. And in fact, we're already there. So I really like this blog from A16Z Crypto here from Darren Matsuoka, who basically kind of outlines here that stablecoins is the next 1 billion user onboarding opportunity. So he's looking at how can we onboard the next billion users into crypto. Stablecoins is already one of the world's largest global payment networks, right? So in the last 12 months alone, moved over $33 trillion, right? That's more than we can see PayPal and Visa combined. And the way that stablecoin projects work is that I give you $1 and you mint $1 digital dollar. So it could be USDT, USDC, and so on. And what these companies do with the dollars that you provide them is they usually invest them in T-bills and then they kind of just ladder them out so they can realize them over a horizon. And so what we can already see is that these companies are becoming one of the largest holders of US debt, particularly because of how many treasury bills they are accumulating. In fact, they are accumulating so much that they have finally crossed the 1% threshold, where 1% of all US dollars in the world are now tokenized on crypto and backed by stablecoins. And the reason why stablecoins are so successful is because obviously you can move money in less than a second for almost no fees or extremely cheap, right? And when you compare that to today's world, it feels like the rest of the world is still living like in the Stone Age. Even today, my friends pay me in Venmo and I have to decide if I want to wait 3 days to deposit it in my bank account or give Venmo like a few dollars, which is why should I have to give Venmo, $4 to deposit $20 back into my bank account? It's ridiculous. By now, it's obvious. Stablecoins are the #1 use case for crypto right now. And stablecoin supply has been going absolutely parabolic, especially in the last 2 years. So we're sitting at a shy right now of about $300 billion. And if we take a look at the top issuers, we can still see that Tether, which is closely aligned to Plasma, owns about 58% of the total supply, or about 175 billion of it. Plasma Mainnet just went live 2 days ago and is already the 5th largest blockchain, sitting at about 7.3 billion in TVL, which is such an incredible accomplishment, especially when you compare it against other notable names like Base, Arbitrum, Avalanche, right? Already sitting up here with 5 billion. Honestly, I would expect it to be coming the top 3 or 4 soon enough. Before we even talk about DeFi, tokenomics, and everything else, I want to really take a moment to quickly share their fundraising story, because honestly, they've made a ton of people rich. And I don't mean the VCs on this graphic. I'm talking about a ton of everyday retail people. And I'll talk about exactly what they did and why I think that's so important, because it's going to foster a really strong community and give them a really good base for traction. And I think that's important when we're talking about new launches. I already briefly touched on how Plasma is backed by billionaire Peter Thiel and Paulo Arduino, which is the CEO of Tether. You can see here some of their other participation funds, and they raised a pretty small round initially, just $24 million for their Series A. So something that Plasma did, which honestly changed so many people's lives, was they sold 10% of the supply, you can see here, for the public sale, and they sold it at an incredibly low valuation, right? The same as investors. And most importantly, they allowed regular people to get involved through what was Echo. So in this time, you could only contribute $1,000, but I did the math yesterday, and those individuals got a return of about 400 times. So if you participated and put in $1,000, when this project went live 2 days ago, you were sitting on a net gain of $400,000. If you aren't familiar with Echo, you can sign up if you are an accredited investor. You do have to KYC, and it's backed by Kobe. So would recommend checking it out and trying to onboard. There's a lot of great opportunities in here. I can't share the deal flow details because I'll get kicked off the platform. A lot of it is under NDA, but just something to think about if you're looking for these type of investment opportunities for the future. Something else they did, which was really amazing, you can see here that some of their Discord members also received an airdrop. So OGs got 30,000, and this would be about, probably from rough math, $45,000 today you would be receiving from this airdrop. Early contributors, about 10,000, and so on, right? So definitely an opportunity here, no matter what, whether you were an investor, whether you were just a Discord member and building up that community, right? They wanted to reward regular people, and they said multiple times how important that was to them. So coming over to the Plasma ecosystem, you can see all the big names that are going to come build on Plasma and really build out a very robust DeFi ecosystem. So we have everything from Aave, the #1 lending platform. We have Athena, which is a top stablecoin issuer right now, and I think has a ton of opportunity ahead of itself. Layer 0, Pendle, Fluid, Curve, right? The list goes on. You can basically see all the big players are committing to building on Plasma. And a lot of these have kind of an intersection with stablecoins, right? Especially Curve pools with its stablecoins, Pendle particularly being able to offer those principal tokens and fixed yield. So a lot of the players that are coming in are very much focused at that intersection of DeFi and stablecoins. If you come to the Plasma's website and you're trying to bridge from another ecosystem, you can just click the bridge, or it just redirects you basically to Stargate, and you can go ahead and bridge from ecosystems that way. And then another opportunity for you, if right now you're sitting on some stablecoins, kind of as these markets are pretty choppy right now, right? You can see here there's almost 3 billion in deposits, and they're paying out right now about 24% APY, which I would argue is probably the highest APY and the lowest risk available right now. Just to round this out, so you have an idea of the rest of the tokenomics. So we said 10% went to the public sale, right? We have 40% for growth, investors 25, and team 25. And you can kind of go through this article and better understand what the different schedules and vestings are. I think the most important one is probably the public sale. So if you were non-US, you basically got all your tokens immediately, right? Those people that invested $1,000 that are sitting on that 400,000 return immediately available for sale, plenty of liquidity. Those people, I'm sure, are having a nice steak dinner tonight. If you purchase as a US, right, US laws, a little finicky. You are being asked to do a 12-month lockup, but honestly, not a bad deal for being up 400x. If we take a look at the price action right now, right, it's kind of hard to draw some support resistances. It's a little too new for me. I like to trade more on the long term, particularly on the daily or weekly and so on. But you can see here, ignore kind of this was pre-listing trading, right? So it went live on the 25th, which you can see, of course, giant green candle, right? Had a little cooler for the second day, another giant green candle, right? And so on. So hard to see where it's going to land, but I am 100% convicted that we will ultimately end higher in the next few months. And so I've started to build a position myself. And the question always is, well, how high can it go? And it's always interesting to me because I have to scroll down into like literally the depths to even find this project, right? So here we have it, right? It's right now the 54th largest project, sitting at a market cap circulating 2.8 billion with a FTV of 15 billion. And honestly, it really blows my mind that it's not higher already, but that gives me confidence that I'll have more time to build a position because there's really no reason why something like Plasma, given the scale, the opportunity, the backers, right, and even the success that we're seeing so early on, really doesn't surpass, honestly, a lot of what I would call either zombie projects or just irrelevant projects. And so I definitely expect it to be much higher in the coming weeks and months. And ultimately, I would expect it to make its way into at least the top 20. And Plasma doesn't just want to be the infrastructure for stablecoins. It's actually even turning itself into a neobank. And if you aren't familiar with the term neobank, it basically just means like modern day online bank, right? And that doesn't necessarily have like physical locations. So they have this card here that you can get, which is awesome. And if we scroll down a little bit, we can see the benefits. So you're going to earn 10% yield on your stablecoin balance, which is nuts, right? So imagine just money sitting in your wallet, right? You're not really sure what you're going to spend it on yet, and you're just constantly earning yield, right? That's not really something that is as easily accessible for a lot of people. You're going to get 4% cash back on rewards, which is amazing. That's one of the highest I've seen. Again, you can use it in 150 different countries. You're going to get $0 fees when you need to send money to different people, right? To go ahead and exchange with your friends or business. And right now you can go ahead and sign up on the whitelist if you are interested in being part of this. My number one advice for people in crypto is always find a group of friends to trade with. So check the links below, completely free community Discord. Come check us out. We're always talking DeFi, crypto, airdrop stocks, and we catch things the day they launch. We are always on top of it. Come hang out with us or just build your own group of friends. But anyways, that's all. See you in the next one. Cheers.